Teresa Torrecillas.
Sí, ahora se los doy. Sí, sí, los tengo aquí. Cuidado, los más cercanos. Los otros se los voy a dar.
Y luego había un jefe de cáncer que
Ahí, te pago.
me lo contaste. Y entonces le preguntaba y decía que
Oye, que me ha dicho que 15 de sobra, así que nos da tiempo a meternos. Yo solamente intervengo si no tienes alguna pregunta, ¿vale? Pero tú me dices.
¿Están cargadas?
entenderlas, les voy a entender, el problema es responderlas.
Bueno, pues ahora responde.
Sí, sí. Bueno, voy a yo mientras hablando.
Vamos, espera. Este es el que manda.
Okay, thank you for coming today and good morning. Especially thanks to the organization for letting us have this panel today. I would like to say thank you especially to Patricia Núñez for her work and for her availability for this along this time. Before we start with the participants of this panel, I would like to talk to you a little bit about Kids and Com, the International Association for Research on Childhood, Youth and Communication focuses its scientific, communication and personal interest on the study of these three topics: childhood, youth and communication. The aim or purpose of this platform is to become like a meeting point or like a place for brainstorming for researchers about the role that the media, new and traditional, are playing in the lives of these groups, children, young, teenagers. Every year, the association organizes a conference to bring together the research developed by the different groups. That is the stage for new research and new possibilities of working together. This panel presented here today is a result of joint work between the different members of the association. First of all, we are gonna start with Carmen Fuentecobo. She's a PhD professor at the Centro Universitario Villanueva, and she's Vice President of Kids and Com Association.
Thank you very much. I joined Carmen García Galera's thanks to Patricia Núñez for the organization of this meeting and for the occasion to include us within the program, the full program of the Congress. What I'm going to present today is part of research conducted on behalf of the National Spanish Regulator. This is an organization called CNCM, which is a national organization for competence and regulation. This is the regulator in the field of many different areas, including audiovisual content. We've been conducting, when I say we, it's a group, a team of researchers from different universities in Spain with the specific goal to assist the national regulator in the reconsideration of the criteria and tools used to content labeling and rating used for television services in Spain. So what I'm going to present is part of this research. Another part, the part related to criteria and rating concepts has just been published by the national broadcaster RTVE in a volume which has been released last week. This other part relates with a specific area of regulation, which is the use of pictograms as a way to identify risks and content advice targeting for children, and specifically targeted for parents to get advice on what their children can or cannot or might be better or not to see. No, I have not. Yeah, the reason why to approach the question of rating and labeling systems through pictograms. The reason why is to change the focus from protection and regulation, which has been the main core of all the measures taken in Europe in the last 40 years, to change that focus into consumer protection. So if we look into Spanish regulation, the basic principles are contained in the general law, which affects consumers' protection. some of the goals considered in this regulation as the reason why talk about protection against risks that may affect the health of safety, not of children. We have focused this presentation on children, but this is a general goal contained in the Consumers Protection Law in Spain. Protection of the legitimate economic and social interests, adequate information on the different goods or services, education required to facilitate knowledge about proper use or enjoyment of goods or services, and protection of consumers' rights through efficient procedures, especially in situations of inferiority, subordination, and helplessness. These are goals, as I say, contained in the Consumer Protection Law in force in Spain right now. So the focus of our research is based on an approach which takes the consumer, not the need to protect children, but to protect the consumer's rights to be informed about the content of audiovisual goods and services, as if they were any other type of goods or services, such as we can find in food or in children tools and toys. This is the approach. The objective of this research is to provide detailed, accurate, simple, and consistent information to the final consumer, so that she can make reasoned decisions about audiovisual content, so that he can choose whatever he wants. So it's based on two different concepts put together. One is what does it mean to have to make a reasoned decision? Well, a reasoned decision has to be based on relevant and quality information, and this decision also must reflect the values and individual attitudes, not only a purchasing, a consumerism approach, but also something which is based on what a consumer wants according to their own values and attitudes. A pictogram-based system has pros and cons. The obvious pros is the speed of the way to access and to process information. It's much easier for a consumer to recognize and to associate a specific pictogram to the risks contained in the description that this pictogram provides, than through a detailed literary information written on the box or in a text or in the EPG or whatever. So one of the clear advantages is the speed to process information. Another obvious advantage is the capacity to communicate independently of consumers' mother tongue. This is something which is important in a country like Spain. We have several systems working in several languages, or educational level. So a pictogram service, a system must take into account the need to be understood by people coming from different educational environments and environments. It's useful for people with audition problems, and it has a real capacity to capture consumer attention. Cons, well, the most obvious cons have to be with two different sets of problems. One is associated to the difficulty to attach to identify pictograms' meaning. So it requires a huge work on design to target it to people from different spheres and atmospheres of cultural knowledge and social implications. The other obvious problem is the one related with resources. It's a nonsense to work and to put together a system which is targeted to inform the population if together to that system you do not allocate enough resources so that the whole population knows that the system is implemented, that the system works that way or that other, and the legal consequences of having that system implemented. Precedents in Europe, all of you are absolutely familiar with this. The Pan-European system used for video games is something which is implemented right now in 25 countries. Not all of them belonging to the EU. And the Dutch system working for the audiovisual content is also based on pictograms, but is implemented only on a local and on regional services in the Netherlands. In Spain, we have had a tiny, to say in a certain way, approach to the use of pictograms through the system that the institute which regulates and rates films in Spain. That's the Instituto de Cinematografía y las Artes Visuales. Provides this set of icons linked to age rating. As you will notice, it's a quite plain and simple way to inform, but it has been a first approach in Spain. So why using pictograms? Well, pictograms, as I was trying to explain before, are easy to recognize, are direct. If they are well constructed, they have visual consistency, are easily to implement, are easy to adapt, even with a small space available. When we talk about small space available, we have to think that the pictograms have to work not only as figures set up in an unknown space, but they have to be adapted to screens. They have to be adapted to the EPGs, the electronic program guides. They have to be adapted to internet program services. So they need to be easily to adapt to different systems of access. And if forms and chromatic contrast are well defined, they are immediately understood by the people who they receive. The project, our project, has these three phases. On the first phases, we devoted time and resources to identify the positive, negative context. That's the categories, the content category on which we wanted to work for the definition of the pictograms. This is this part of the research is the one I was mentioning before, that has been published by a national public broadcaster. The second part of the project was to create a rating system, but not on an abstract way. We clearly needed to be absolutely linked to the regulatory system existing in Spain right now. And the regulation existing in Spain right now is a co-regulation system in which a self-regulation code is included in a general law, which requires operators, broadcasters, to implement and to use this self-regulation code as the criteria for the rating system they have to use. So it's a co-regulation, self-regulation code, but being implemented and reinforced through states regulation. So the rating system is clearly following the patterns set up by the regulation enforced in Spain. The third phase of the project was to design the pictograms and to test them on a laboratory environment. What we did was to conduct research and eye tracking research in an institute called Lab Human, which belongs to the Valencia University, with 56 individuals belonging to different age groups and also socioeconomic environments, to test 3 different sets of pictograms and to see which pictograms worked better or no better for each one of the content categories. All the pictograms proposals were based on the standards applied here in Spain and also the international ones, ISO norms, and also the Spanish criteria for the Fundación 11. Fundación 11 is something which sounds a bit odd, but this Fundación 11 is the Blinds National Organization in Spain. How is it possible that the Blinds Organization in Spain has some rules on criteria and on pictogram design? Well, they do have some instructions, some rules on concerning design criteria for pictograms targeted to everybody, obviously not to blind people, but to the whole population. So this is the whole set of regulations being incorporated. So we passed the test I was mentioning to evaluate visual recognition. The visual recognition is based basically on 2 types of measures. One is heat standards. That means that when the eye fixes on a specific area of the screen, it provides some heating on that side of the eye. It means that so it's you fix your eye, and then the time you fix your eye is mixed with the area of where you have fixed your eye. Mixing both measures, we provided maps of heat taken from direct lecture of eye tracking. These are three examples of how it works. One for the capture of the full screen, the other one is a capture of the EPG, and the other one is a capture of the internet service linked to a specific program. These are the final pictograms we've finally selected and recommended to implement. First one we are showing here, the ones selected for positive contents. We think, and this is something that we found it important to insist, that it is required not to inform only about negative content, but also about positive contents. In other research, we found that parents want to be informed not only about what concerns risks and problems associated to audiovisual content, but also on those contents which are of good for their children. So we defined different sets of pictograms, one for positive and the other one for negative. As you can see, there's a blank area here in which we have not included anyone, and that's because we found out that during the test that people, the users, did not understand the difference between 2.6 and 2.2. And since it was a concept which seemed to be redundant, we decided to eliminate. So the 7 positive contents have been limited to a six set. Negative contents, these are the pictograms which have been chosen as the ones which work better. The content categories, as you can see, are 7. We have not invented anything new. Most of these content categories are used in whether in the Netherlands or in the UK. You can find it in the criteria used on the British Film Institute. So these are quite common. What is probably not as common, we have included 3.6 new category. That's contents which are imitative. That's I don't know in those who come from different countries to which extent this is a problem or not, but in Spain there's a huge now conscience about the risks associated to eating and alimentary disorders, which are promoted or can generate imitative conducts through the media. No? So there's a sensitivity in the social environment about conducts which can be imitated by children. So we have included this 3.6 category, which is conduct which can be imitated. So violence, sex, anger and fear, drugs or addictive substances, discrimination, racism, good to imitate, and language. Language which can be offensive for the viewers. Next step to this is to be considered by the national regulator, and if they approve it, to incorporate it as in regulatory content concerning what the national televisions have to do. And this is basically all I wanted to do. Another recommendation, this is I'm finally finishing with this. The recommendation is to avoid one of the categories of age rating categories we have in Spain right now, which is content, the E6 content, especially good for children. We found that people do not understand the difference between this content, this category, and good for all audiences. So we have recommended to include only these 5 rating categories to be implemented. And you will see in the next months whether our recommendations are adopted or not. Some of our former recommendations have already been adopted, the ones relating to criteria to classify the content, the visual content in Spain. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Carmen. And I forgot to say before that all the questions and all the comments will be at the end. So now we can continue with the participants. And now is the turn for Francisco Cabezuelo. He works together with Luis Núñez Ladevece and Teresa Torrecillas. And he's going to talk now about the European Framework for Digital Literacy and Authoritas Problem. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for being here today. And first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Francisco Cabezuelo from University of Valladolid at Segovia campus, which is not so far from here, from Madrid. And I have the big honor of having been working and presenting this paper with two authorities in the field, who are Teresa Torrecillas Lacabe and Luis Núñez Ladevece, who are here with us today as well. And we are presenting actually an ongoing project. Actually, I cannot offer you the results because this is right now the beginning of a research project. Okay. I don't want to be very repetitive, but I have to insist. I would like to express my gratitude and acknowledgement to Patricia Núñez. So thank you very much for organizing everything, Patricia. And it's been a pleasure to be here today. Okay, so I'm going to start apologizing because I found some mistakes in the presentation, but there are some small things like the quotation marks that I'm missing now in the Authoritas word. And I would like to express the idea of Authoritas. That's the main goal of this presentation, and I would like to spread around all that message because I want you to use that term, that word, Authoritas, and that's the Latin word, the Latin expression. We are using that because we want to avoid some other expression as authority or power, because for us it has a special sense. Okay. And as well, we are going to analyze this idea of Authoritas according to the European law and also the national context. This is the reason, because the title of the paper, the title of the presentation is the European Framework. I mean the frame in general, the context for the digital literacy, not only media, especially the digital, because that's the real challenge nowadays, and the Authoritas problem, the Authoritas, using the Latin expression. Okay. And okay. First of all, we have to say that we don't have a real. It's very controversial. Okay, what I'm gonna say, and I don't want you to feel bad, because I try to have a plural representation of European identities, as you can see. Okay, and avoiding stereotypes, and that sometimes are very useful, by the way. Okay, but first of all, we have to say that we don't have just a one unique and only European context. Okay, we have to distinguish or have to be aware of the different cultures, languages, and contexts that we are having in Europe, which is something very, very positive. Some other countries, big countries, almost continents like the United States of America, probably have a common language, common background, short background, but huge background at the same time. Okay, but in the sense that the multiculturality is huge over there as well, but it's not like in our case where the national identities are very strong compared with the European identity. And that's the first challenge that we have in our research, the framework, because we have a double framework, which is the European one and the national ones. And obviously we are focusing on the case of Spain, but actually I have to say at the same time that we are having another presentation in the next panel, okay, and we will talk about the Spanish case more. Right now it's just about the European, okay. Now obviously there are some differences, cultural differences between the north and the south, and also the Balkans and the British Islands and the Iberian Peninsula and probably Scandinavia, as you can see actually in this Congress as well, okay. And however, we are trying to have another context as well, which is the globalization, the global sphere, and that's the ideal atmosphere for advertising. Actually, the picture in the middle, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you have the same image, is that multicultural society where everybody is integrated, like everybody from every different background, okay? So that's the first challenge that we have, to study the context of the authority and the digital media literacy in Europe. Are we having a European context, or actually are we having national contexts which are stronger than the European or pan-European one? So that's the first challenge, that's the first problem that we have. However, in order to take into consideration the problems, okay, so the main goal of the research project that I will tell you later will be to see the framework. And in that framework, we are taking the legal concepts and documents from the European Union. And that's the matter if you are from Italy or Germany or Portugal or Scandinavia. We have some common European institution, and all of them, all the institutions on the paper, actually, on the documents, reality, it's a little bit far, okay, have been always insisting and very interested in study and protect the children and the teenagers, and also they are being focused on the social consequences linked to the increasing changes that we are suffering or enjoying due to the communication technology development, okay? Actually, as well, in the European agenda, we have the European institutions, and in this case the authorities, the political authorities, have been dealing with particular interests, which we call, and it's very repetitive, I know, the digital divide or the digital gap, which is a term that I don't want to focus on, okay, because this is almost the past, and that's so clear. Obviously, we have to recognize that there is a climate change and also a global warming, and there is as well a digital divide, okay? However, the concept continues to be controversial and problematic, okay, because it depends, the meaning of that word, the digital divide or the digital gap, depends on the application, okay, of the field of study. It's not the same if you study that between intergenerational context or was between countries, for instance, okay? It depends on geography, depends on history, and so on, okay? Continuing with the European framework, I would like to underline as well that the use of information and communication, new technologies in the case of the children, and of course, when I mean children, I mean everybody who is under 18 years old, okay? That's the legal definition in our country, at least here. It's an essential objective or goal in the European policy according to the European documents, the formal documents, okay? So, as a challenge, the European Union is encouraging the parents to go deeper in digital training. And that's the beginning of the definition that we are going to give you of authoritas, okay? Parents don't have the same digital training that children have, okay? Because they are living in the same house, but they are living different realities, okay? And actually, we have to say that also the European documents, and in this case, the Pillar 6 of the Action 62 of the European Commission, was as well remembering or reminding us that theory, okay? And this research is not new for us. It's more or less news for me because I was integrated a few years ago in this research group, but this is as well the consequence of a huge background in the field of childhood and some other research made and led by Professor Luis Núñez Ladebeze, who was the head, actually, the head, and the leader of some of project that we got in San Pablo Theo University, granted by some ministry and some national and regional authorities like the Ministry of Education, Innovation, and as well the region of the Comunidad de Madrid, okay? So actually the project that we are having now, that we are working on right now, is the evolution, is the continuation, okay, of the previous work led by Professor Núñez Ladebeze, okay? And here you have the title of those. The first one was the use of the new technologies and the gap between, okay, the adults and children. And the second study, another research project, was the digital gap with seniors, okay? And the problems of media literacy, for the inclusion of older people in our contemporary society, okay? Therefore, after these projects that I've been explaining you, okay, I would like to underline the goal that we have in this project. Okay, we have two variables that I would like to underline, which are the digital gap. Okay, not the digital gap between countries. Okay, this is the reason, because I want to be very specific. Okay, it's the family gap. There is a gap within the family. That's what we study. The gap within the family, between the grandparents, children, the uncle, even between the elder brother and the baby, who are brothers and sisters within the same family. Okay, and the question of authoritas. Okay, and we have a lot of literature and documents talking about the digital divide. That's very abundant, and we have a lot of books and articles talking about digital divide between countries and generation. But there is a problem. There's so little or too little literature and documents and papers, people working on the concept of authoritas. Actually, in order to try to look for the roots of that concept, we have to go to all authors like Hannah Arendt or Álvaro Dors, that I will tell you later about those ideas. Okay, so there's not a huge literature about authoritas. This concept is much more complex. Okay, because it encompasses different perspectives and approaching, and sometimes there's the concept of authoritas is linked as well to power, conflict, and authority, considered as a police, as a government. And actually, when we talk about authoritas, we try to be far from the institution. Okay, we are not talking about authority coming from institution. This project that we are working on is an ongoing project, so I cannot offer results, sorry about that. We have a main goal, and we try to analyze the systems of that digital divide between generation and inside within the families. Okay, and we try to study how the digital gap, the digital divide, could influence in the internal conflicts of families. Sometimes some fights at home, some parents, if you have children at home, sometimes when you start to fight with them, it's because they are using the cell phone, the computer inappropriate, or according to you, that's not the appropriate to use it. Unfortunately, some parents are those who are using inappropriate the new technology, and when the child is tired or he or she doesn't want to eat or whatever, okay, play with the TV, play with the internet, or here you have the cell phone, play with that, which is a real risk. And when I say it's a real risk, I think that's objective. It's not because you can consider that I'm very conservative, I have to protect children from everything, okay? But actually, the main conflicts right now between the families are coming due to the technology, okay? And also the conflicts between teenagers and adults in every single life come for the use of communication technology. When I was a child, my parents were always arguing because I was talking on the phone with some friends and girlfriends and so on. So that was the technology available those days. Right now, unfortunately, or fortunately, sorry, technology is totally different. So they argue, or they have conflicts due to the use of technology, okay? And which are the real risks of that wrong use of technology? Cyberbullying, grooming, sexting, computer abuse, those are concepts that we know that are linked to the bad use or the inappropriate use of technology. Okay, obviously those problems were problems that were existing previously to the technology. Okay, but they have like a speaker, or they become bigger due to the technology. Okay, and here we have again another reason for the conflict. How does it affect? What's the role of the parents in that gap between generation and also against the concept of authoritas? Because the point is that who is a real authoritas? Who has the authority at home when we are talking about the mass media, the internet, and YouTube? The grandfather, who was especially here in the Mediterranean concept of family, the grandmother, the father, and the spirit of the family. We have to respect all people and so on. They used to be the authority at home, but unfortunately, my grandmother or my grandfather don't have any authority talking about YouTube or Twitter. I don't have neither, okay? But especially, okay, there's that means of recognition of authority in adults from children. They don't recognize, they cannot learn about technology from the adults. That's the main idea of the concept of authoritas. Okay, and as I said, I repeat it again, children have a greater digital skills, competencies, abilities, as you want to say, than their parents and obviously their grandparents. So here we have a new gap, and someone is asking for help. But in this case, who is asking for help? Children are not asking for help. Grandparents and parents are asking and saying SOS. We need help, okay? Because they are suffering the inability to access and use the new technology properly. So there's a barrier not only to social integration, but also to family cohesion within the family. Okay, so there are problems for the internal, the personal, and the family development. Okay, and as I told you before, this idea of authoritas is not the same concept of authority, of power. Just I'm gonna finish very soon. Don't worry. Just taking into consideration classic authors, we could go back to Max Weber or Alexis of Tocqueville, but we take two ideas from Hannah Arendt and Alvaro Dors. Okay, is the idea of working and receive recognition within the family. That's the problem that we are having today. All members of the family, parents and grandparents, they don't receive that recognition from children because they consider that old people have no literacy at all. Okay, so they lose that authoritas. Okay, and also we start to find this idea, not with that word of authoritas, but I invite you to use that word, that concept of authoritas, in the recent legal and manuals and books that we are using to do our research. Okay, so very fast, I'm gonna try to finish. Okay, some goals or some aims that we are trying to develop and obtain at the end of the project. Okay, it sounds very theoretical, I am sorry about that, but I promise that at the end of that, our research project is very practical and very clear. Okay, because what we want to develop is a new school for parents and grandparents. I don't want to say the word school, but a methodology, a way, a training group, and we want to provide that literacy to the old generation. We don't want to have that gap between generations within the family. Okay, so we try to study several points as well. The protection, okay, that parents are having on the children. Is that a real correspondence between what parents say, I really care about my children, but actually it's not true? It's like, yeah, I say that I care, but actually in the daily life I'm so tired when I come back from the office and I just give them the telephone, the present, and the new technology that they ask for. Okay, which kind of conflicts do we find within the families? We want to analyze and identify the several types and kinds of conflicts within the family, and finally we want to try to not resolve, but try to find some solution, or try to identify some, depending on the cases, of course, some solution that we can apply or we can give to families. So this is the reason, because this is a practitioner research group. And I'm gonna go so fast. I'm just gonna underline again the gap between the family, between the members of the family, and that's all. Time is over. So if you have any question, any comment, we are the authors, and here you have our email, so feel free to contact us after identifying our web picture. Okay, thank you very much for your time, interest, and question.
Thank you very much, Francisco, for your presentation. It was very clear. And now is the turn for Antonio García Jiménez. He works with Beatriz Catalina García and Maricruz López de Ayala. He's a PhD professor at Universidad Rey Juan Carlos. It's all yours.
No me funciona el micrófono. El micrófono doesn't work.
¿Quieres que me cambie?
Claro, eso. First of all,
I would like to apologize for my almost perfect English. I would like also to present my gratitude for ECREA and Patricia Núñez for this opportunity. On the other hand, we are a group of researchers focused on teenagers and social media. This presentation can be situated in a initial part of research about the relationship between teenagers, adolescents, and YouTube, in order to analyze the appropriation by teenagers for this part of the internet. This presentation seeks to describe how adolescents use YouTube as a channel for expression and a space for cultural empowerment. To that end, from a communicological perspective, this study reviews the existing research into YouTube, placing particular emphasis on facets that can be transposed to the field of adolescence in order to examine more closely different aspects such audiovisual behaviors and interactions, consumption, subjects, and narratives. First of all, we like to connect some ideas from the research about adolescent and social media connected to analyze the study of YouTube and adolescents. In addition to general uses, one of the issues addressed is the idea of privacy and intimacy. There are many different studies that indicate adolescents make conscious use of social media when presenting images and ideas. This would demonstrate their capacity to control the public, partially public or private dimension of the information that they present to others. It confirms their capacity to control access to their own profile, the content they want to divulge, and the list of people who want it interacts. Another relevant aspect refers to the nature and quality of the adolescents' relationships, as well as the influence of the well-being. The use of social media has much to do with contact with friends, the search for support, and the cultivation of emotional ties. Although it has been said on occasion that instant messaging is a replacement for face-to-face conversation, in actual fact, these tools enlarge offline contact and peer networks. Other studies have focused on the difference between social media insofar as disclosing emotions and well-being are concerned. In this respect, it seems that Facebook is more disposed toward emotional disclosures, whereas the face-to-face communication is associated to a greater degree with a well-being than the use of videos. Other studies center on analyzing what motivates social network site use. Some authors detected the transcendence of identification with a determined group and collective self-esteem, the self-identity of an individual that derives from the values, emotional meanings, and knowledge aspect associated with belonging to a group. Finally, there is an extensive research regarding internet risks, more specifically referring to intimidation and harassment. This fact has also been associated with platforms such as YouTube. According to several studies, 32% of adolescents state that they had been bothered by videos they had been able to find, whether these were violent, 30%, or pornography, 27%. In relation to audiovisual and YouTube consumption, it's clear that these activities among young Europeans, watching videos has become one of the first activities for children and teenagers on the internet. This activity must increase between 2010 and 2013 and 2014, or uploading photos, videos, or music to share with others, and watching videos on video sharing platforms. The rapid spread of the use of mobile devices among the younger age group, such as tablets or smartphones, is contributing noticeably to the increase of this type of audiovisual activities. 46% of European children and teenagers possess and use a smartphone on a daily basis, while 20% did the same with tablets. Even more significant is the fact that the figures for daily use of these devices doubled between 2011 and 2013, with an average use of 30 minutes per day and overall among those who use a mobile device in a typical day. For another part, preteens who use tablets or smartphones listen to music or watching videos online to a greater degree than who do not use them. YouTube is the media sharing site that European adolescents use most, although it varies between countries. In this sense, the preference for one platform or another is conditioned by social factors, such as the large proportion of boys than girls or older children are connected with this use. For instance, 70% of boys have a profile on YouTube compared to the 39% of girls, while 51% of girls have a profile on Instagram compared to the 24% of boys. As regards the content access of this channel by adolescents, for instance, British children and teenagers were asked where they would find fun things like hobbies or interests in a 73%. Another answer for how to build, make or create things. In this sense, funny videos or videos showing how to create or to make something are the keys in the use of YouTube. Sorry. About the reason for consumption, the use of a smartphone is a key because it's associated with identified construction processes and that they serve to explore in the general growth who they are and who their friends are. YouTube allows adolescents to look for and join video groups made up of young people with the same interests as them, this making it a new way to find friends online, especially among teenagers aged 15 to 17 years old. For our point of view, it's relevant to analyze the appropriation of the audiovisual space by adolescents. The first point is connected to the option for presenting themselves to others, while at the same time they are constructing their identity. In fact, sharing videos also has to do with the new modes of sociability, which is increasingly interwoven into social media. In this manner, teenagers would also be participating in constructing social realities. For many young people and teenagers, being able to access audiovisual representations from around the world means a cosmopolitan approach of getting closer to other cultures. The audiovisual culture is connected to the daily life of teenagers who have available to them an enormous number of professional and amateur videos belonging to different types of formats, contents, etc. According to some authors, platforms such as YouTube are configured like a source to approach their knowledge, new form of knowledge. It could almost be stated that they become a new type of classroom in which divergent forms of learning are suggested. The mission of the many different audiovisual approaches is to enable a person to present themselves to another people and to assist to new form of learning. Another key question is the prosumers. With this condition, the digital natives found a tool that permits them to develop their audiovisual creative capacity, enable new communication networks, and reinforcing their empowerment as prosumers. In this sense, it's important to analyze the emotional or cognitive help provided by sharing videos to create new personal connections and develop extensive relational circles. In this respect, some authors state that going beyond the connection on friendship based on a online profile, the mere action of sharing a video can become an essential channel for identifying with a special social network and having a feeling of belonging to a digital community. The empowerment of sharing videos provided by this channel by YouTube has resulted in the emergence of popularization of the concept of the YouTubers, who publish videos created by themselves through this channel. This channel has grown from being a channel for audiovisual dissemination within a social family circle to incorporate a triple functional dimension, being an interpersonal relationship model, a broad public space, and finally an extensive commercial space. In this sense, it's calculated that over 80% of web content will circulate in this format combining image and sound. One of the most important thing in this relationship is connected with the music. The spreading of music, in particular live performance, is one of the most prolific aspects of the production of live videos we have in YouTube and in relevant platform. Some authors are according a point that is a new way to watching and being in contact with music, a way which is truly foreign to the objectives of the record industries. This practice is a creative appropriation that alters the content and the use of these videos. The development of new video creation using as a platform or social media like YouTube is an act of participation which allows users increase their media literacy. The prosumer develops, among other tasks, an exchange of knowledge as well as managing and spreading information and expressing feelings. This is a form of personal enjoyment, but also highlight another intentions like new channels for entertainment, as well as a critical approach that opinions to be shared with other users, arising out of which is a new manner, a new mode, way for empowerment or for activity digital citizenship. Only 3 minutes left. Another point we are studying in connecting with the future research is creativity and the connection between creativity and virality. According to some authors and studies, there are few adolescents who attempt to general audiovisual projects, but in the last few years, a growing trend of uploading videos online has been observed. Amateur works acquire relevance as compared to commercial work through a participative culture which resides one of the keys of the new social media and social relationships. Other studies analyze YouTube as a space for a participative culture. Schiffman, for instance, does through the main memetic concept for what are known as memetic videos, characterized by some features like focusing on ordinary people, flawed masculinity, humor, simplicity, repetitiveness, and whimsical content. Also is connected with flash mode, political participation. Well, there are a lot of points of we are interested in. Finally, some conclusions. The new social media are becoming key space for adolescents. Not only as their social relationships, also relax audiovisual consumption and audiovisual appropriation. Platforms like YouTube have for years been the screen that children and teenagers tend to on a daily basis, and this fact contributes to the presence of new modes of approaching knowledge, approaching relationship, and approaching creative proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for your effort with your English. Thank you very much. And now is the turn for Mónica Díaz Bustamante, Carmen Llobet, and Beatriz Patiño. Both of them are here today. Mónica and Carmen, they are talking to us about legal and ethical regulation in Spain and the sexualization of children through advertising, fashion brands, and media. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carmen. Also a special thanks to Patricia for the initiative to organize this Congress, and also to Carmen Fuente for the encouragement of research in this topic. We have already presented some papers about the literature review of sexualization, and also some initiatives of parents and consumers awareness of this topic. But now we are researching and presenting the research of the legal aspects in Spain, and specifically in empiric research about the fashion media. The problem of sexualization of children has stimulated debate last years, especially due to the activity of fashion, brands, and media. A turning point was the denounced advertising campaign of Caro in Vogue Paris in 2011. Besides the controversy provoked by the campaigns where the sisters Fanning and the actress Hale Steinfeld were involved. Designed by Marc Jacobs and Miu Miu, and both inspiring the Lolita myth, have also contributed to the huge concern about the use and treatment of the underage by the collusion of renowned brands and media when broadcast this kind of campaigns. Recently, the focus has changed from the adolescents to the children, spreading sexualizing images to social networks. For example, Millie Dale Diamond, 14 months, has reached more than 100,000 followers on Instagram due to the fashion designing style of an adult that promotes luxury fashion brands. Another example of the same social network is a 9-year-old model Cristina Pimenova, followed by more than 700,000 people. There are several slides about comments of children around 8-9 years old saying that she doesn't look like a girl, and she looks older, and also that they feel guilty and bad because she's so pretty and they feel just bad. Her presence in the catwalk Barcelona started a debate about the dangers of the exposure of the underage to this kind of spectacles. In this sense, not only brands through conventional advertising, but also editorials of fashion media are using erotizing images of children. Facing this outlook, research is focused on the following question: are editorials sexualizing children more than advertising? If so, to what is due this trend? The suggested reasons revolve around values the luxury brands plan to communicate, taking into account that the initiative is theirs. The concern is serious, and the media are conspirational in the communication of these images, without thinking about the consequences for children and for the consumer society. There is no doubt that renowned fashion brands and fashion media are responsible for the declining society that shows because of the money they invest on this business. In light of that situation, it turns out justice has to establish enough mechanisms to ban this type of actions. The legislator has always protected to the underage as a weak group of society, based on his special vulnerability to any stimuli, particularly from advertisement. Children are a special target whose criteria and preferences are not clearly defined yet. Here is the second question. Are legal and ethical codes enough, or is it necessary to regulate in a more specific and strict way? There are three main points of the regulation research. First, the concept and protection of the minor, which is well protected due to the special vulnerability of this target, forming its personality. The second one is the wide concept, we were talking about it yesterday, of advertisement provided by different legal sources, so above the slide. Advertisement, digital advertising, is considered now like blogs, social networks, digital magazines, and reviews that has a digital version. Thirdly, although the law regulates general situations without going into each case, there are specific mention to the harmful morally or physically derived from sexualization. Now, Monica is going to explain the empirical research. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mónica Díaz Bustamante, and I am a professor here in this school and also in the Commerce School of the university. Thanks, Patricia, for this congress. Thanks, Carmen, for the opportunity to show the results of our work. Well, I'm going to show you the main results of the empirical and exploratory study that we have carried out to achieve one of the main goals of this work, and using different investigation techniques. First, we have done 18 deep interviews with childhood experts, with parents, educators, psychologists, designers, etc. Then, and especially in order to validate the results of the in-depth interviews, we have done an online survey that was completed by 144 persons belong to children environment. It was completed especially by parents, of course, and by educators, but also by psychologists and lawyers, experts in childhood legislation. And finally, the researchers, we have done ourselves a content analysis of 193 children commercial pages in all the children special numbers published in Spain in the last year by the main women magazines, Hola, Vogue and Telva. Well, regarding the main results of the in-depth interviews and the survey, we have found that the term sexualization of children, it's a term that we have found in the American and academic literature. Well, this term in Spanish, of course, is very, very confused because most of people linked this term with the gender identity of children. So they understand that an image that sexualizes a child reinforces or modifies the masculine or feminine identity of the child. All of the people investigate show clear concern about this phenomenon of the sexualization of children. And it's important to highlight that most of them point the children fashion magazines aimed at women as the main way or media for showing images of early sexualized children. Within these formats, this media, particular attention is called to the images that appear on conventional advertising page of children fashion lines developed by traditional luxury or hidden fashion brands for adults, like Guess, Armani, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, etc. And even more so on those that showed the fashion children fashion designs created by the magazines themselves through their editorials. Most of people study believe these images sexualize both girls and boys, although they consider girls to be more sexualized than boys. Finally, in this part, regarding the items considered sexualizing for children, those outlined in the scale developed by Graf in 2013 were noted, and also were noted new items related to makeup, hairstyles, accessories, and especially to the gesture or posture of children. In this regard, most of people study state the posture and gestures, for instance, provocative and challenging, determinant in the degree of sexualization of children. Concerning the content analyzed, we have analyzed a total of 93 pages with a total of 414 images of children inside. Some of the pages showed children fashion designs created by the magazines. We are going to call them fashion design pages. Other pages showed the conventional advertising of children fashion lines developed by luxury fashion brands for adults. We are going to call them advertising page to simplify the presentation. Well, the first thing to highlight is the undoubted sexualization of children in these pages. 88% of children appear sexualized, with each having an average of 3.6, almost 4, sexualizing items. It can be confirmed also that this sexualization is greater on fashion design pages than on advertising pages. Also, it should be pointed out that girls are much more sexualized than boys are. Sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. Regarding the most used items in the sexualization of children, postures and gestures that are serious or forced, highlighted or dyed hair, clothing in dark colors, and accessories traditionally used by adults stand out among both girls and boys. Specifically, regarding girls, the use of makeup is notable, and regarding boys, adult hairstyles are prominent. Focusing on the fashion design pages, the presence of girls is 102% greater than that of boys, and the number and the percentage of sexualized girls is also greater than that of boys. Regarding the advertising pages, although the presence of girls is greater than that of boys, the difference is not quite as marked as on the fashion design pages. Differences are also observed in relation to the items used to sexualize children on the two types of pages. Although both types of pages stand out for showing children making forced and serious poses or gestures, using adult accessories, changing the hair color of children with highlights, and abusing makeup with girls and adult hairstyles with boys, it's important to underline that advertising pages show notably more girls making sexy poses or gestures and wearing very short clothing than fashion design pages. In comparison, the other fashion design pages show a greater amount of imitation or adult jewelry for girls and dark color clothes and sexy poses or gestures with boys. So the results of the empirical study show the unquestionable sexualization of children through the children special numbers of the main women magazines in Spain.
Regarding to the discussion, we have concluded that sexualizing children through fashion is a trend that has to do with a new line of business, and also that there are codes and rules enough to ban these images. Although there are no complaints, there has been just one complaint about the minor defensor of the community of Madrid once for an Armani Junior advertising, but it was not well defended in terms of it was focused on the Asian girl who was the protagonist of the advertising, but not on the type of the advertising a problem of the advertiser. This means that the jury, the advertising jury, says that it's more important to measure the social context and the social concern, but than the own advertiser's activity. In fact, the jury says that it's common in fashion sector to promote through catwalks, advertising, or events this kind of image, using makeup or this kind of clothes. So, besides, the problem is more in the collection, in the designer collection, than in the advertising. So there are enough rules, but not used because there are not complaints using the proper arguments. And also there is a conclusion about the new formats that sexualizes children through fashion more than the traditional advertising. We have also researched and conclude that, of course, law cannot regulate specific assumptions, but they are not applied in this case in these fashion magazines, and there's also a sexist treatment of girls. There are further research for ICEmedia, the most important observatory of media content in Spain, and we want to do for further research to elaborate some like a code of characteristics that help the jury or the judge to see if there is a sexualizing image on advertising, and also to establish a specific code for fashion industry, as it is actually applied in toys, perfume, or food industries, and also to elaborate a national report, as the American Psychology Association did it in 2007 for sexualization of children, and in UK in 2011. We have no time, but you can see two videos. One is from UNICEF in South America. It includes a code for enterprises, and one of the points, the point number 6, includes the sexualized body images, which should be banned. And also there is an experiment of Yolanda Dominguez, an artist, but also an activist, that has asked, this maybe would like to Pilar La Casa, who has suggested to observe the children and how they could measure and talk about what they perceive when they see the advertising or fashion advertising. So you just can look for them on website. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And finally, the last paper today is going to be presented by Estefanía Jiménez. She works with Mayalen Garmendia, Miguel Ángel Casado, and Paula Pineda. She's PhD professor at Universidad del País Vasco. So, it's your turn.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for you to be here, and thank you for the organization which has prepared this beautiful meeting for everybody. Okay, I'm here to present you the result of our quite recent research we has been conducting or developing a survey this year in Spain, and this is part of a wider research project which is called UCS Online, which has been developed in almost all European countries during the last year, and even our survey it's only focused on the Spanish situation. I think it's quite interesting to pay attention to the comparability of the result of our study. Okay, the name of our presentation is Evolution of Spanish Minors Internet Using Habits 2010 to 2015, because our objective is to pay attention to the difference in terms of use and especially risk, given the obviously difference of the relationship between teenagers and technologies during recent years, right? So our project aims was to investigate on how the changing condition of access and use of mobile technologies, meaning convergent mobile media, bring greater or less risks to children online. On the one hand, we can assume that everybody is society in general, but especially teenagers are more used to the mobile technology, to the internet, to surfing into the internet, so they should be more used or more accustomed to the risk related to the internet media. And on the other hand, we can assume, and at the result of our study, we showed that there is a more intense use of media. So let's see if the risk of the possibility to be armed through the internet has gone up or down, right? Our field work in this term, I would like just to show you a couple of figures, because this is an ongoing research. Now, at this moment, we are writing the final report that I would like to we would like to offer to society at the end of this year. This is just a preliminary result, and I'm going to offer you just a couple of figures. Our field work, as I said, it's focused on, or it's based on 500 interviews to internet users aged 9 to 16 years. It was developed by in-home face-to-face and self-completion for sensitive question. In terms of methodology, it was quite difficult to find so many internet users. We were wanting to answer to a survey which obviously was about 30 minutes, so it was quite difficult for the interviewers to get so many children and their parents answering to the question, and the fieldwork was developed this spring, from April to June of this year. So the data, the numbers are quite recent. The questionnaire contents were focused on a number of areas: access and us, the divides in usage, skills, opportunities, risk, as I mentioned before, the intensification of online risk and the possibility to feel in touch with a difficult situation for children, and parental mediation, right? There is a precedent, which is the UCS Online survey, which was made in 2010, which offered a quite accurate picture of the situation, of the scenario in 2010. So most of the questions we were offering, or we were posing to the interviewers, will make a replication of some of the question posed in 2010, right? So there are obviously many methodological limits, because obviously the situation has dramatically changed, but we think that it's possible to make a kind to draw a line, or to draw the difference between 5 years, right? And on the other hand, we as I mentioned before, we can offer a European perspective because the same survey we are working on has been developed in different countries of Europe, right? In the case of Spain, it has been found by the project of Mineco, and for the rest of countries I mentioned, they have their own funds, and here there is a place to make comparison between different countries, right? There were a number of focus to discuss, given the question that I mentioned in the questionnaire, from digital culture of youngsters to the incidence of perception of online risk, the difference between what children do and what parents think that their children do. But I'm going to focus, as I mentioned before, just in a couple of figures, right? The first of them would be the mobile devices, the ownership and the use. So I just offered you this table, right? And on the left side of the slide, you can see a general, brief description of it, right? So given the numbers, given the figures, we can think about the high penetration of mobiles in Spain, and as a highlight, we could say that the penetration of mobiles in Spain is higher than the rest of the European countries, but Denmark. So this is a quite salient figure regarding the Spanish situation in terms of penetration of devices. For all the slots, age slots, there are more smartphones than tablets. But in the case of the children 9 and 10 years old, they own more tablets than smartphones. But when they became teenagers, it's quite usual to have. It's by far more usual to have a smartphone than a tablet. Something which is worth to underline is that 1 over 4 of 10 years old is owner of a smartphone, and that's a kind of boundary, a line when they get 10, or when they are 10 years old. It's by far it's the speediness of becoming a smartphone owner, it doubles, and it's quite evident, and there are not significant difference given the sex, right? Not many difference between boys and girls. If we make the comparison with the figures in 2010, we can see a kind of tsunami, right, during these 5 years. I mentioned before the limitation of the methodology, so I have to confess, right? We had to make the comparison between the use of the smartphone every day nowadays in 2015 versus the access to the internet using a mobile or a handheld device in 2010, right? It is the most accurate possibility to make comparison between these two moments, right? 2010 and 2015, but you can see how the social presence between teenagers of mobile technologies, it's a kind of tsunami in just 5 years, right? It's a huge difference between 2 years, and these two moments, I mean. Regarding the place of access, you can see here where are the most usual or the most interesting place to pay attention to, and you can see how the most intense relationship with mobile devices from the teenagers is still the home, but not only the bedroom, but also the shared rooms, right? For instance, the living room and so on of the houses. So that bedroom culture concept should be maybe forget, because the access from the houses is also from places which are not private, right? This is related obviously with the mobility. Then you have here the comparison between 2010 and 25. Again, the explanation about the methodological limits of the comparison. In 2010, we ask, where do you use lately the internet? And now the question is, from where, from which place do you go? Do you get internet several times a day, plus daily, or almost daily, or at least every week? So there is a question related to the intensity of the connection, but you can see that there are not. There is a salience here, right? It has increased the number of times and the intensity to get to the internet from the living room and from the own bedroom, which is higher than it used to be 5 years ago. And something which is quite interesting for me, the so small relevance of the connection to the internet when out and about. I mean, in en route, when they are on their way to school, or in moments to do nothing. Right? There is just 24% of children do it frequently. Right? So I was expecting more percent. 24. It's quite a small quantity to me, but these are the numbers, right? Another question: which are most popular activities through the mobile internet? And I think that the figures tags or the numbers they talk by themselves, right? These are the most popular activities in 2015, comparing to 2010, right? And you can see how there are some trends with maybe has a less than percent, right? In 2010, they used to download music or films more frequently than today. It's obvious, because nowadays most of audiovisual content is online, so it's not so necessary to download anything. This is quite interesting also, right? It has been now it's smaller, the proportion or the number of teenagers reading or watching the news on the internet. Even they have increased their use of the mobile technologies to access to the internet. There is to not exactly to read or watch the news on the internet. So maybe they are less interested on news, right? This question maybe needs an explanation. I visited a social networking profile. In 2010 it was 60% of population, and nowadays it's just 43%, but maybe because during these 5 years it has been a changement, a shift, right? And 20, which was a social networking site which was extremely popular, but just in Spain, not for the rest of Europe, has his its golden age 5 or 4 years ago, but nowadays it's just residual. Yes? It's not so usual, and most of teenagers has gone to the WhatsApp, obviously, and WhatsApp in this research has not been considered a social network site, but an instant messaging site. So it's for that it's different, right? Another trend is that they play games with other people on the internet. I share playing on the internet with the different players. It's a trend which is going up, right? There is more teenagers doing it now than they used to be 5 years ago, and the use of the webcam has going down, right? So in a sense there are not so many differences, because they are different on the level of penetration of every activity, but these used to be the most popular 5 years ago, but nowadays they are also the most popular activities. So in a sense, although there has been quite difference in the level of penetration or so on, the uses and the likes and what the teenagers want to do on the internet is essentially the same, right? As I am going to develop on the conclusion of my intervention. The average age when child first used the internet, it's shown here. We asked in this occasion about their first connection with the internet and at what age did they get their mobile phone and they smartphone, making a distinction between the ordinary mobile phone, and the mobile phone with a connection to the internet. And we can see that there is the age of the first use, not only the first use, but the first uses, the internet, but also the mobile uses, they are still dropping, and there are differences regarding between age groups, right? Not all, there are differences. If we pay attention to the first use of the internet in this slot for 15 and 16 years old, they got to the internet when they were 10 years. If we pay attention to the age of the first usage of the internet for 10 years old, they got the internet when they were 7. So there is a difference even in that small group of population, right? We can pay attention to the difference between them. This is the comparison with the figure of 2010. Just to mention that there are not significant difference regarding the sociological and economical situation. We cannot say that the richer or the more cultivated that family is, they will fast or slow the access to the internet of their children. There are not significant difference regarding gender. And just a rhetorical question: will this question about when did you use the internet for the first time will be relevant in a short future? We guess that it's not, because it's probably in a couple of years it's going to be like for us to be asked when was our first connection to the television. I mean, probably in a couple of years this is not to have any sense, but nowadays it's interesting to pay attention to the dropping of the age. Regarding the most popular social networking sites, we can see that clearly nowadays it's Facebook for all the age group, but I need to make clear that they were in the survey, they were different categories, right? What was social networking sites, but the other one was platform, which is Instagram, which obviously the most popular platform, and the other one was the internet messaging sites, and in this case it was obviously WhatsApp, right? If we pay attention, and this figure comes back to the previous week table with different activities. If you ask to teenagers if they have used instant messaging service, namely WhatsApp, 68% of all of them would say that they have done it, right? And this is a big number, because we are paying attention not only to teenagers, 16 years old, but also to 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, boys and girls. So we can see how for this slot, the older of them, there is a huge population using WhatsApp on a normal basis, on a daily basis, right? And paying attention to the online risk, we can see how the level of people, or the penetration of teenagers suffering online risk has gone up, right? Has grown. Then you have the comparison between 2010 and 2015, and we can see how the population saying that they have suffered or they have experimented online risk in Facebook or in an SNS in general. They have gone up. It's also gone up in the case of WhatsApp, and it's also gone up in a chat. So given this information, these are some preliminary conclusions, right? Most habitual online activities has not notably varied during last 5 years. Maybe the level of penetration has done it. Maybe the level of ownership of tablets and mobiles have varied, but the most considered and most liked activities have not varied. The preferred activities are also related to socialize with peer, but also with parents and family, extended family in general. So socialization of the information and socialization in general is the most liked activity on the internet for teenagers. One question relating to the age of first users of the internet is that it gives opportunity to parents to supervise younger children activities. My colleagues has talked about the authority and the problems struggling with teenagers at the families. If now children start going into the internet on an early age, it should be easier for parents and family in general to help them to navigate in a safe way. So it's good news. It's nice to know about that. There is a migration of risk depending on the types of use, obvious, and more use, as in this case we have discovered, not discovered because it's common sense, but we can now offer that information. More use means obviously more risk, as we have seen, and children care in order to get a safer use of technologies is a shared responsibility for parents, for school, and for in general public institution. Thank you for your attention. Eskerrik asko. Muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We are almost in time, so we just have 2 minutes. If anyone have any question, even in English or in Spanish, could be possible if Patricia allow us. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is for Professor Fuente Cobo. Did I understand it correctly that the pictograms that you propose, that they are only for television content and that you still will have the different pictograms for the films?
That's a very good question. We obviously are recommending to use the same pictograms for all, but probably in your where do you come from? From the Netherlands, are you, or Belgium? So it's something related to the regulatory structure of the country. So the organism which provides the pictograms for films depends on a different ministry than the one which provides for pictograms or is going to provide for pictograms. So it's a matter of it's something which is right now being under negotiation. So we hope that we help to clarify the whole picture by also helping both organisms to talk together to use the same criteria. We have already we are happy that they have already agreed on a common rating scale, which was something we didn't exist a few months ago. Right now we have the same age scale. Now we would like very much working together with users associations. We have here two huge representatives of users associations. We would be very up to have common criteria for the classification of content, and the third one to use exactly the same pictograms, but right now not.
Any other question?
Thank you. Actually, I also have a question for you. I'm Monique Buizen, and we are also involved in the Dutch rating system advisory boards. And what I really liked about what you were presenting is that part of it is aimed, it's not only aimed at harmful content, but also at the beneficial content of television or films. So I'm curious to know, I think that would be very interesting for our rating system as well. But what is the rating system based on? Is it based on research or on the intentions of the makers of the programs? So how do you determine whether it has a creativity stimulating content, for example?
You mean the age categories or the content categories?
The content categories.
The content categories is based on literature. We have not conducted, I must say that, we have not conducted research on, we have based our split on literature.
And what kind of literature? Sorry, maybe.
psychological, coming also from production,
Yeah.
and also from the field of education. So it's a difficult issue because you also have to be able to find categories which are easily recognized by a non. Well, we are supposed to be experts, but when you talk with the regulator, you are targeting a population which is not expert. So you need to act as a conductor of all the what is available from this field of literature and psychological literature and educational literature and production literature into things which are recognizable as values accepted by the society. No?
Yeah, we recognize that from our rating system. Yes.
you also, we have. Absolutely based because the Dutch system is the basis for everything. Next step, I think one of the most important things we face right now is how to be able to have international standards for this. If you are in the Dutch system, I understand that there's a proposal to also make the NICAM system something as a basis for an international European standard description of contents. This is something which we think, when I say we, it's not only the academic field, but also we work very, very close to the users associations to work all together, all the community, educational community, the academic media community, and the regulators all together with the users associations to find out common standards which help. Because the contents our children are receiving do not discriminate where do they come from. Right now, everything is coming. We are also focusing on how to promote content leveling on origin. In Spain, the regulation gives the programmer all the control on the rating system. So it's the broadcasters, the one who provide with the content qualification for each one of the programs they broadcast, and they are the legal responsible for that. No? We are trying to promote to the idea of start working with those who are the original producers, so that the content qualification might be linked to the program from the since it is produced independently, whether it is produced by an independent producer or a broadcaster or an aggregator or whoever. No? So that it can go through different platforms. I don't know whether I have answered your question or not.
Yes, totally. Okay. Thank you, and I also fully agree with your standpoint.
The last one.
It's a question for Stefania. I am Raul Martin from Pompeu Fabra University. All data you show are very interesting, and one of the figures has surprised me, because in Spain we are living in a very important microeconomic crisis, and the unemployment rate is very, very high. So you have shown that the penetration of mobile is higher than in other countries. What's your opinion about this beyond the official sources? Thank you. It's an easy question.
Actually, this is not the object of my dissertation today, but I think it's a combination of the culture, the prices of the connection, and probably a question of social group and social pressure, if you want, because you see around you, or the surrounding you, that there are families giving mobile devices to their children. So it's a question of, if I see that on my peers, I'm going to do the same thing. And for a child, if I watch that surrounding me, that when coming 10 years old, my friends are getting their mobile devices, why I'm not going to ask the same for me? But this is not something which is new. Traditionally, in past 6-7 years, this question regarding the ownership of mobiles, but also laptops and so on has been traditionally bigger, or the penetration has been bigger in Spain than not in the rest of Europe, but yes, in so many European countries. So there is. I understand your. I mean, you are a little bit shocked by this, but it's not something essentially new. Right? We have not been shocked by this data. We were expecting something similar to this because it's a kind of tendency on the last years.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming today. This is over. Okay, members from association, we can continue in the orange room. So thank you very much.
¿Qué pasa? Ah, sí, sí, sí.